She looked at you, smiled. For a second you thought there was something there. Maybe she laughed a little longer than she needed to. Maybe she replied faster than usual. Maybe your friends even noticed it, so you finally made your move. And then everything changed. Her replies became shorter. She stopped initiating conversations. The excitement disappeared almost overnight. What happened? Did she lose interest? Did you say the wrong thing? Or was she never attracted in the first place? Here's the surprising truth. Most people believe attraction is something you convince another person to feel. Psychology says the opposite. Real attraction isn't forced, it's invited. And once you understand how attraction actually works, you'll stop chasing people and start becoming someone they naturally want to know. But before we dive in, take a second to subscribe, because YouTube rarely shows the same videos twice. And if this one helps you understand people a little better, there's a good chance we may never cross paths again. Now let's uncover what's really happening. Let's go back to that moment, the one where everything shifted. Because that's usually where people get it wrong. They think interest disappeared because of something they did wrong. A text, a joke, a move made too soon. But here's what almost nobody realizes. Attraction was never really about you in that moment. It was about how she felt about herself when she was around you. Psychologist Aron spent decades studying this. His research on closeness found something strange. People don't fall for the person who tries hardest. They fall for the person who makes them feel a specific way, curious, safe, and a little unsure of what happens next. Think about that. Not certainty, uncertainty. Then something unexpected happens. The moment you become predictable, the mystery collapses. And attraction, at its core, runs on mystery. This is where most people make the biggest mistake. They mistake attraction for approval. So the second they sense interest, they chase it. They double text. They over-explain. They try to lock it down before it even exists. And it changes everything, just not in the way they hoped. Here's why. Helen Fisher, the biophysical anthropologist who studies the brain chemistry of love, discovered that early attraction activates the same neural pathways as craving, not comfort. Craving, which means desire isn't built on reassurance. It's built on anticipation. The second you remove anticipation, the brain stops reaching for you, not because you're less valuable, because there's nothing left to wonder about. That wasn't rejection, it was psychology. Now let's talk about the woman in that story, the one whose replies got shorter. Somewhere between the laugh and the silence, something shifted internally. Maybe it wasn't dramatic, maybe it was subtle. A conversation that used to feel like a two-way current suddenly felt like effort, like she had to carry it. And here's what psychology discovered about that specific feeling. John Gottman, after decades of studying couples, found that the health of any connection, romantic or otherwise, comes down to something called bids for connection. A bid is any small attempt to get attention, affection, or engagement. A glance, a message, a question. What matters isn't the bid itself. It's whether it feels balanced. When one person makes all the bids and the other just receives them, the dynamic quietly breaks. Not through conflict, through imbalance. That's where everything changes. Because attraction isn't just chemistry, it's rhythm. It's give and take. It's two people leaning in at roughly the same pace. And when someone senses they're the only one leaning, they instinctively pull back. Not out of cruelty, out of self-protection. Now the story becomes much bigger. Because this isn't really a story about a text message or a missed opportunity with one person. This is a story about how millions of people experience modern connection. Here's what makes this bigger than just one relationship. We live in an era of infinite options. Dating apps, Instagram, TikTok. A world where someone can meet 20 potential partners before lunch. And in that world, attention has become currency. But here's the twist almost nobody talks about. The easier you are to get, the less valuable you become. Not morally, psychologically. Daniel Kahneman's research on value and scarcity showed something fascinating. Humans don't assign worth based on quality alone. They assign it based on perceived scarcity. This is why the person who replies instantly, agrees with everything, and clears their entire schedule the moment someone shows interest often ends up ghosted. Not because they weren't good enough, because they became too available too fast. And in a world built on infinite choice, availability without depth reads as low value, even when the person offering it is genuinely wonderful. That's where attraction becomes counterintuitive. Confidence isn't loud. It isn't arrogance. It isn't a rehearsed line or a perfect gym photo. Esther Perel, the renowned relationship therapist, describes desire as something that needs space to breathe. In her work with long-term couples, she found that eroticism and attraction often fade, not from lack of love, but from too much closeness, too much merging, too little separateness. In other words, distance creates desire. Not emotional distance, not coldness, but identity, individuality, a life that exists outside of the relationship or the pursuit. Think about the people you've been most drawn to. Chances are, it wasn't the person who needed you, it was the person who wanted you, while still being whole without you. That distinction is everything. Now here's where this touches something deeper than dating. Attraction, at its core, is a mirror of self-worth. Sue Johnson, creator of emotionally focused therapy, spent her career studying attachment in adult relationships. Her research revealed that most conflict and disconnection in relationships isn't really about the surface issue, the text, the plans, the missed call. It's about a deeper, older question running quietly underneath everything. Am I enough? Will you catch me if I reach for you? When someone chases too hard, it's rarely about the other person. It's about soothing an internal fear, a fear of not being chosen, a fear of being forgotten, a fear rooted in early attachment, sometimes from childhood, sometimes from past heartbreak, sometimes from a pattern that's repeated so many times it feels like personality. And here's the paradox. The more someone chases from that fear, the more they confirm it. Because chasing from anxiety doesn't feel magnetic, it feels heavy, and people can sense heaviness even when they can't name it. This is why Brené Brown's research on vulnerability matters so much here. She found that genuine connection isn't built through perfection or performance. It's built through authenticity, real presence, real confidence. Not confidence that says, please like me, but confidence that says, I like myself, and I'd love for you to join me. That energy is impossible to fake, and it's impossible to resist. So let's return to that moment. The one where her replies got shorter. The one that felt like rejection. Here's the reframe almost nobody considers. Maybe it wasn't about losing her interest. Maybe it was about losing your center. Because attraction isn't something you perform in a single conversation. It's something you radiate through how you carry yourself, your humor, your curiosity, your ability to sit in uncertainty without collapsing into anxiety. People aren't drawn to certainty of outcome. They're drawn to certainty of self. And that's the real secret hiding underneath every "she lost interest" story, every ghosted conversation, every situationship that fizzled into silence. It was never really about chasing the right words. It was about becoming someone who doesn't need to chase at all. So here's the bigger picture. Attraction isn't a formula you apply to another person. It's a byproduct of who you are when you stop performing and start existing fully. Curious, playful, secure, unafraid of silence, unafraid of distance, unafraid of someone walking away. The woman in that story didn't disappear because interest wasn't real. She disappeared because the mystery did. And mystery isn't manipulation. It's authenticity that isn't rushed. It's presence that isn't desperate. It's a life someone wants to be invited into, not begged into. The moment you understand that, dating stops feeling like a performance. It starts feeling like an invitation, not one you force, one you become. If this helped you understand relationships a little better, subscribe and join us. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and until next time, keep learning what really drives human connection.